Hello, beautiful people. I have some things for you. We have to take you back to some pre-colonial era in the history of Nigeria. So before the country called Nigeria, it had been a country. So whether it was called a country or named a country by the Igbo or not, Nigeria existed years before the white people came knocking on the shores of Africa, especially the Portuguese, who were the ones that came first. So you may start to ask, or you may start to wonder, what were they actually looking for? What was chasing them from their own abode in Portugal? As we now know what Portugal is today and what Portugal has been in the history. So these people were naturally be financed by their kings or emperors at that time to go out there and look for an alternative source of wealth or income. So while they came in pretense of trading, but deep down in their mind, they came with some bad ulterior motives. Until today, we can still see them, how they operate. Even within the UN, they keep pressing the poor country or the poorer countries to make them poorer, while they benefit or dance on their graves when they are dead. That is what they do, economically, politically, otherwise. That is what they still do. European community coming together to form a stronger bond is not to empower any other country or continent, is to guarantee their own survival and not the survival of the African continent, which has been the fuel and the oil, you know, that they burn their energy with. So it's very necessary that we talk about these things sometimes because, as you know, most countries these days in Africa, they hardly teach or teaches history the way it should be taught. So, but because a lot of people don't have access to the internet, it makes it much easier for them without going to the classroom sometimes to hear some things, from a like mind. So while I'm trying to dig out some of this history, it's not because that it has not been told before. Most of our history has been told by us, or by to us by foreigners. They always want to tell us our own history the way they want us to know it to be. So, but I think it's important that we actually know at least that our history has some fundamentals that have to do with that have to do with us. The beginning, the beginning of who we are as a people and what we've been. You know, apart from achieving so many things, over the years. Whether through or pre-colonial, because this is about pre-colonial history of Nigeria now, for example. So let me just take you back to some key facts. Here's a history of Nigeria before independence. 10 facts you should know. You see, Nigeria is a country with rich history and culture, but not much was known exactly what was the beginning of the formation of Nigeria as a nation and the events that preceded its independence. So, on this issue, we are going to discuss about, say, we describe a brief history of Nigeria before independence. we assure you it's going to be interesting. So you still remember those some cartoon pictures you see when you see white people with horses and stuff, moving around like they are in a slave camp or like they are in a prison or what do you call it? This uh, um, this what do you call it? All kinds of camps like the Nazi camps, where you see the army and stuff like that with their guns aiming you know, at their victims, hoping that one of them will make a mistake or trying to 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 want to break out, from the circle, and that person will be shot. Then they can just be easily acclaimed that he was trying to escape and therefore he was shot. And nobody will ask any question. So it was not a new thing then. So with them, it was just normal. You see, but pre-colonial history of Nigeria, you see, different tribes and empires inhabited the territories that make up what is now known as Nigeria. Since ancient times, about 200,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, this is 2023 March, you know, we're in March. So there's a March 23, you know, 2023. You see, so it blends there. That was a good rhyme. March 23, 2023. So about 200,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, that's before Christ, I guess, you know, Nigeria became the land and the part of West Africa. We don't know for sure if somebody was living at this time in this area. Neither did we know if there was anybody living in this part of Europe, you know, in Western Europe. Maybe the Europeans started coming from, the old Roman Empire, you know, etc. Before this, they have to spread and develop out to this area. Because after all, I don't think the population was this much. That's at that time, So that is how they want you to. So, but anyhow, we know that we have existed just like every other human being that inhabited their own area. So, but it could not be said that, or it cannot be said that maybe uh, we were not, they were not, they were not people living in certain part of Africa because all they want us to know is that we came from East and Central Africa, and Central Africa, and we spread to the other part of Africa. Who cares? After all, we are the disabled Igbo people that said, okay, human race, started from Africa, and they have to then from there they have to migrate into the European, hemisphere and stuff like that. The same people that said Australia and Africa continent you know, was in the same land, without water separating them, but over time, then the sea came, or the sea was, I mean, somehow divided and start to, you know, cut out a part of, the continent, and the other continent now has to be shifted because of the sea. So it's the sea that separates Africa and Australia. And whatever thing it is, this is science. So when they are trying to explain it, somebody else will still come back, maybe 100 years from now, 50 years from now, and start to give another definition of what actually happened or what he thought might have happened because it was not there as well. They might even come with some gadgets and fix them on the ground, to try to tell you how the whole thing erupted, volcano and things like that erupted, and therefore, the land shifts and pave way you know. Just like they also suggested now that a part of Africa very soon is going to be split again by the sea and oceans and things like that. So without anybody doing anything about it to stop it, so but on the whole, nothing like that. There's nothing like that happening. No prediction like that is happening as far as Europe is concerned. That maybe the sea or the ocean one day will split Europe into three or whatever. No, it's always about Africa. You're still trying to partition Africa by every means necessary you know. So whether politically or economically or what have you, to disenfranchise, our aim of, you know, to have that absolute, absolute power as far as our destiny is concerned, or when it comes to the UN political, circles, we know where they play, some kind of gimmick and stuff, so that we too, as Africans, we can also have a voice, to at least, defend ourselves or, stand for what we, stand what we stand for and achieve what we actually want for our people. So that is it. So different tribes and empires inhabited the territories that make up what is now known as Nigeria since the ancient times, about 200,000 years ago. So Nigeria became the land and the part of West Africa. You see, we don't know for sure if somebody was living at this time in this area, but probably from that time the ancient tribes began to penetrate there from the territory of Eastern and Central Africa, and they were distant descendants of the Asuras and the distant ancestors of modern pygmies. You know the pygmies. Now they said ancestors of the modern pygmies. The only pygmies you see now, or you can find now, is in the Congo. Yeah, so I don't know if they have pygmies in Central Africa, in other part of Central Africa, because Congo, as you know, is a part of Central Africa. So but in any other part of Central Africa that you might think where things like this are happening, you know, I don't know. So but that was they say somewhere in the middle of 1000 BC, that is before Christ, say the Nok culture was formed, or you just discovered the Nok culture because these cultures have been there for time immemorial. So the Nok culture was formed in central part of Nigeria, in Jos. You see, when you say Jos now, you mean in that whole area, in that Nigeria central, what do you call it, middle belt, region, so including Benue, Taraba, and all the rest. Those were the areas, the old Gongola, etc. So you say which marked the transition from the stone age to the iron age. You say a distinctive feature of this culture was terracotta figurines. You remember that thing, that terracotta stuff, that Nigeria was once known for, etc. So all these things originated from this part of the country. It says so some features of the culture, figurines of horses, riders, and wheeled carts allow you to link the appearance of the Nok with the influence of the Mediterranean ancient cradle of civilization. So this was exactly what was up at that time. So because these people were very creative and they were doing their thing, while some other area also were doing their thing. So, and at that time, you see that the kind of map that the Europeans draw or drawn, to try to, you know, and to try to remember the area that they've been to, etc. They try to name all kinds of these things. So, like area where they find black people, they call it Negro land, Guinea, etc. So this Guinea area, like as it was near map, is you know, they try to create that western part of Africa as the area they call Guinea. So by the Negro land is you can just say the whole of Africa was not called Negro land as at that time. So mostly the eastern, western, parts of Africa and even southern part of Africa. So we can just say the whole of Africa, even in fact all parts apart from the north. So they just call them Negro land. So that was how they categorized this whole area. And before you know it, Germans, the Dutch, which is the Netherlanders, and the English and the French were all over the place, and Portuguese. They were scavenging because as soon as one person say, "Hey, boy, I think we discovered something or something new is happening," and they make one revelation somewhere, then the news will go around somewhere. Maybe one king will call the other king a brag about one of their discoveries somewhere. We found a new land, in a place like this, or without even saying it because it was a secret, because everybody was trying to make money, at the expense of us, the Africans, who were novice, and maybe we were just too happy to receive foreigners or visitors, thinking that they love us, etc. Oh, you are welcome. What do you want? You want to stay? Okay, you need a place to sleep. Hey, you can sleep here. You know, Even the king then could have even given up his own bed for a stranger out of, you know, and that hospitality mentality that Africans do have, even up to now. But while you are doing that, somebody else is taking something else that, hey, you are doing it out of something else, etc., etc. But while you are trying to help a fellow a human being, another human being is taking that, hey, you probably want something, from him in return, because in his own world, where they are coming from, that is how they operate. They never give anything for free. You know, if they give you one thing, they are taking something else. So when they came to Africa, that was exactly what they were also thinking. So you can just imagine that. So that was how they were able to, use that in this thing to degrade our own people, by playing, you know, playing the role that they were supposed to play in order for them to get more secret. And before you know it, even the brother will start to betray another brother. Hey, don't mind that guy. Ah, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, this is how to get him. It's like this, it's like that, it's like this, it's like that. People start to talk like that. Before you know, they use it against all of them, and they start to buy slaves. So let me just cut this thing whole short. He said, after the mysterious disappearance of the Nok civilization, and the Yoruba people have preserved its traditions. Of course, the Yoruba people has been there all along. So what do you mean by preserve? You know, they be there all along. Maybe they were just a minority among the Nok culture, you know, or the Nok culture was the one, overwhelming every other, tribes within that whole region at that time. So by with things change. Either the Yoruba that is now known as Yoruba, they move away from that area, because if you want us to believe that we are all coming from that Nok culture, from East Africa to western part of Africa. Then we started from the North culture, according to you. So you are not saying that all of Nigeria, for example, originated from the North culture? I don't believe that. So, but let's go with that now. By saying that Yorubas, you know, who created the pre-state unities, Ife, Oyo, and Benin Kingdom. So the Yoruba created Ife, Oyo, and Benin Kingdom. While on the other hand, the same Yoruba also claimed that the Yoruba culture came from the Benin Kingdom. So, but whatever it is, it's a Benin bronze. You know, the Benin bronze, which was used to decorate or for decorations of the palace of the kings, is currently presented in the collections of major museums in Europe, and the most of them can be found in the British Museum. So the kingdom of Inri of the Igbo people has been existing since the 8th century. You see another complication there, that the Igbos has not been in existence, because the kingdom of Inri, that is NRI, of the Igbo people or of the Igbo race, has been existing since the 8th century in the southeast of Nigeria. So, but that I want to believe, because from another history we learned that the Iri people actually, they all came from the same kingdom, which is the Benin kingdom at that time. So they did not came. When you say came, it means it's like they were living. Then they now move, to Onitsha and what have you. It was not like that. It's like they were just all living together normally, So they were part of the Benin kingdom. So just like the Oyo and Ife, you know, later, because these people sometimes, if you go back to history, you see that these people sometimes, this Oyo and Ife, you see that it's just one family. For example, a king that will move with his settlement, then he go to a place, set up another settlement. Then before you know, Then with the workers and every other person, slaves and things like that, then they start to grow. Then that is how they start to form villages and towns and things like that. So when the whole places is getting shocked, you know, I stuck up with too many people maybe fighting for land and stuff like that, and the space is too small. Then somebody move again, maybe a prince will just move. He just take his crops and his wife and things like that. Okay, see you when I see you, you know. Then he start to walk. Go, just go into any part of the forest and start to move. You know. Then they carve away. As soon as they get to a place and they feel like, I think, yeah, we can find water, we can find grain, we can find so and so. Let's build us a house here, a camp. Then they build a camp. Before you know it, they plant crops. Then, oh, let's wait to harvest this crop before we move. So maybe at the end of the day, after harvesting those crops, then they say, I think we just have to stay here. Then they stay again. Maybe that king again will have another child again. That child also have his own, personal assistants, etc., that help him to do a lot of things and stuff like that. So somehow you start to form a household. Somehow you have wives, not just one. Sometimes you have 10 wives. For that it was too easy. You know, you have 10 wives or more. Concubines say all over the place. You have children all over the place. Then one day you call all of them and just say, "Come, I'm tired of living in this place. I think we have to go on a journey." Then you get them ready again, get everything ready, take what you can take, anything you cannot take, leave them behind. That is how, boom, they move again. You know, they start to go because for him it doesn't cost him anything. All you have to do is to sit on top of one cradles and stuff like that, and be carried, shoulder high, and they walk. So anywhere they get to, then they want to drink water, they want to do one thing, they want to rest, then they rest again, then they set off again. So until you get to a place where maybe the wise man will say, I think this place is also green, with water and things like that. Sometimes they just go on the river, on the riverside, along the lake or along any stream and things like that. So that was how they were living because anywhere you go, as far as you go along the river area, at the line of the stream, there's always water to drink. So, and water was an essential commodity, for survival at that time. Food was not a problem. They could just go into the bush and just find some food and just eat. That was it. It also animals the same thing. They go into the bush and the in bushes they see animal, they slaughter the animal, they catch the animal, you know, and food is ready. So that was how they actually live at that time. So now on uh, on the Igbo Inri issue, so that was how it was. So actually the Inri, you know, was a part of the Benin Kingdom as it was. So we were not people that came from the moon or from the sun or from anywhere else, you know. So we all came from through the Eastern, that is Eastern African, route, whether through whatever other this thing that yeah, they are trying to make us believe. So whether it's through the northern part of Africa, etc., to the east, then to now to the west part of Africa. It doesn't really matter where we came from then, because like the European also said, they too came from Africa. That they too were once black, so with time somehow they became white. Some said that they were monkeys or chimpanzee, and then later they became humans. So who cares? You know. So anyway, let's try to keep a long story short. So that is what is this? So all this whole thing happened when I said the essence. Nigeria said the exact date of occurrence or no. Until 1911, just 1911 here, the city of Inri was considered to be a cradle of Igbo culture, or is considered to be a cradle of Igbo culture in 1911. And you said, that Inri, the kingdom of Inri, has been in existence since X century. That X century, what do you mean then? So to me, the 8th century will represent like forever, that they'll be there forever. So when you are saying 8th century, it's like you are saying, unknown, unknown century in the southeast. So there's nothing like that. Igbo people did not fall from the moon, neither did they fall from the sky, or neither did they migrated from any other place like the rest of the black race that you know, move with the time because either there was war in a certain places where they were, and then they have to move. Just like the Yorubas also, so but the Yorubas today, if you ask them, they will tell you they came from Ife, so but sorry, they came from that Ife came from Saudi Arabia, you know. So, but I wonder why they say that. Why would they be saying Saudi Arabia? You can just say they came from the Middle East, to be clear. Like everybody, everyone else, every other race, came through the Middle East, maybe. Because if the Europeans are not saying they came from the Middle East, or some of them are also say that they came from the Middle East, but that was just in the 19th centuries. Then then Africa have some other things to dig out. So, but we accept as being the original people and the first people in this planet Earth. So we accept that. We are not disputing that. So what I'm trying to say here is that the X century, is not applicable here. Because if you can tell us that the Yoruba came from the Nok culture and the Benin and the after the Yoruba created the Ife, the Oyo Empire and the Benin Kingdom, then who created the Iri Kingdom? That is the question here. So but when you look at the whole thing, you find out that actually the Iri that you now call the Iri actually came from the Benin Kingdom, because most of the things the tomorrow still sound the same, and most of them are still almost the same. You know, so without from you don't have to use the river Ethiop or the river Niger of today, to judge things, because people, of course, go through live through the river banks and things like that. So, but because the river is so wide now, you might be thinking like maybe then it was just a stream, you know, a stream that anyone can just walk over, or use maybe some what do you call it, plantain stock, to float along, or every bamboo boat, to float across, etc. So it was very possible because when people are running, from being persecuted, from persecutions and things like that, all they are looking for is a peaceful place, where they can live. So if you know that crossing that river will give you that solace that you need, for example, definitely you do everything to cross it. It's not like you don't already have peace on this other side of the water. You have peace here already, but knowing that fully, if you can cross across, and go to the other side there, then that water already serve as a boundary. Like in the old Benin Kingdom, for example, there used to be this a thing they call a moat. The moat was just like a canal, very deep canal that was built around the cities, etc. So if you look at the Benin of today, the Ishan of today, the Afemans of today, and even all the deltas of today, there are still moats all around that was carved by humans, because of security as at that time. Even lately, in some years around, I think 19 that was it 1918 also, or thereabout, when the British came also, when they were trying to enter Benin, etc. The same moat was used also to protect and fight against and fought against these invaders. That was how they killed some, some were they missionaries or exploiters? So that led to the deportation of the Oba of Benin at that time, the Oba of Verami, to Calabar, when he was accused of, killing white people and stuff like that because he asked his men to defend their territory. So that is it. So also, he said it is worth mentioning the culture of the people of Tiv. So Tiv is a people, who occupies a part of Benin State now. You know,